So at this point, President Zelensky of Ukraine has just largely backed himself, his country, into a corner. He is trying to play both sides of the fence. On one hand, he has actually come out and said that a Russian invasion is not imminent. And this is as more and more NATO countries are opposing any military action in Ukraine. Now, even as he says no Russian invasion is imminent, he also has met with, President Macron of France, and with NATO, he is still portraying Russia as some kind of immediate threat, which they are not. Our media is talking about all the and Blinken is talking about Russia's building up forces. Why wouldn't Russia be building up forces on their border while the UK and the US and different countries are sending weapons and troops into Ukraine, which is posing an immediate threat to Russia? Why wouldn't they? This is not an aggressive action. This is a defensive action. Wouldn't you do the same thing? If you say no, you're just lying. So, don't even bother. Let's take a quick look here. All right, so this is a map of Russia. Now, Russia is the largest country by landmass in the world by far. You take a look at this. Here's Russia. Look at China. You could put several of China into Russia. Look over here at the United States. You could put at least 4 of the United States into Russia. Now, Russia doesn't have a lot of places where they really need to defend. North of Russia is the Arctic. Now, they've got some cities over on the eastern side, where they border with Canada. They've got some mostly naval and air defenses, but that's largely, just immediate defenses of the Bering Strait and early warning. But everything over on the east of Russia is, is Siberia. Now, Siberia is populated. If you take a quick look here, there are cities, Yekaterinburg in Siberia, and if you ever take a look at the pictures, there's some real striking beauty there. You take a look at some of this architecture and the lands. It's absolutely beautiful. Hey, this is nice to look at, but you think about the fact that any invading ground forces would have to be going through stuff like this, and it doesn't really form any particular tactical advantage. Anyway, so go back to the map here of Russia. Okay, so zoom in here. All right, Russia doesn't need to defend themselves against North Korea or Mongolia, China, Kazakhstan. They don't need to defend themselves there. So where are most of their ground forces? centered right around here, right around Georgia and Ukraine and the Eastern Bloc countries that have joined into NATO. Now, Belarus is actually, pretty much on Russia's side. So, of course, they are going to center most of their ground forces right around this area. These are not temporary for the most part. These are actually permanent military encampments for the most part. Now, Ukraine, Zelensky has basically said that he wants NATO and the EU to basically rescue Ukraine economically. That's what this is largely all about. Look at this. The GDP of Ukraine for 2020 was $155 billion. And most of their exports are agricultural. Now, if you wind up with, weather impacting that, their agricultural exports plunge massively. They used to be pretty big on metallurgy, but that has gone down in recent years. So, now their GDP is $155 billion, but their exports only generated $68 billion in 2021. So that causes a huge problem for them where their economy is concerned, because they're largely spending more on imports than they are generating from exports. They have to import at least 80% of their natural gas. They're trying to move mostly toward nuclear power. So take this into consideration and think. All of this this began with the Donbass. Now, the first thing to think about is, why did Donbass and Crimea both decide they wanted to leave Ukraine in 2014 at the same time, right after the violent overthrow of the democratically elected government of Ukraine by right-wing forces? And why does our media not report on this? All right, compare Donbass to a hypothetical situation of Illinois wanting to secede and join Canada. So Canada says they will protect Illinois. The U.S. government opposes Illinois secession. Military and right-wing militias and mercenaries attack and terrorize Illinois to try and force them to remain in the U.S. Foreign governments send weapons and troops because of the threat from Canada, and Canada is villainized. All right, if you believe in democracy, then what should be happening here is for the international community to hold a plebiscite in Donbass to vote on whether Donbass wants to remain the people in Donbass want to remain in Ukraine, declare independence, or join Russia. Now, you can predict what the outcome would be. Donbass may have only wanted autonomy within Ukraine at first, but after 7 years of being attacked, having foreign militaries come in to assist their Ukrainian attackers, then they will definitely choose to rejoin Russia. Being independent or an autonomous region of Ukraine will no longer be sufficient because they will have no reason to believe in their security. No matter what the outcome is here, the Ukrainian military is going to have to stop attacking the Donbass region, but that does not stop right-wing militias such as the Azov Battalion and mercenaries from attacking and continuing to terrorize the region. If, most likely, Donbass rejoins Russia, this will lead to the absolute necessity of imposing some degree of martial law in the region for the safety of the people. The terrorist activity will not be reported by Western media, but the martial law will be for the sake of portraying Russia as evil and fascist, rather than portraying it as trying to keep the people in that region safe. If Donbass remains part of Ukraine, martial law will also be imposed by Ukraine, but this will not be reported at all by Western media, or it will be claimed as necessary. If Russia builds a wall, if they rejoin Russia, if Russia built a wall or a fence to keep that region secure, it will be portrayed as a new Berlin Wall by Western media. Even as the U.S. has a military force patrolling the southern border for decades, and fences or walls in some areas along the southern border since the 1990s, and much of the U.S. population favoring a wall. And there are no terrorist activities coming across the southern border. Should Donbass remain a part of Ukraine, the Ukrainian government, by international politics, would have little choice but to make a show of rounding up and imprisoning right-wing militias, which would result in a wider civil war because the right-wing militias, which have been working with the government, ain't gonna like that too much. But the Ukraine government, being right-wing and having enabled, armed, funded, and encouraged those right-wing militias, would not be able or willing to control these right-wing terrorists. So Ukraine cannot join NATO while they are in the midst of an active civil war. It is against the NATO Charter. And the European Union is not going to want to become the supporter of Ukraine being a welfare state that has nothing to offer the European economy. The European Union economic union is already facing all kinds of problems. You had Brexit not long ago. You've had Greece and Italy having severe difficulties and being placed under, austerity measures at different points, and still barely hanging on right now. So the European Union is not going to take on a welfare state. And joining NATO, well, that's just going to stretch them even further. And for what? For a threat that does not exist. And then cause more tensions and difficulties trading with Russia, with whom they have been trading and it had improved trade for many years now. And this is also going to cause problems with the Belt and Road Initiative coming from China, because it's got to come across Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, all these countries that are allied together and then going through the adversarial Eastern Bloc. This has got to be solved. And it's not going to happen this way. So I think Europe is going to completely break from the United States on this one. There is no other choice. All right, so share this video. Talk about these subjects. Unless the United States incites a false flag, which is a possibility, but I don't think a very good likelihood in this case. There are too many eyes watching this time. There are too many entities involved. So, without a false flag attack from the United States, this is going to cool down one way or another. And Ukraine is just foolish. If they want to start a war with Russia, they're putting themselves right in the crosshairs. Ukraine will be completely destroyed, caught in the middle between the forces that they brought in. So that won't work. So this is going to calm down. All that they need to do is tell Biden and Blinken to shut up. All right, share this video. Talk about these subjects. If you can, please donate $1 a month to help expand the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one.